welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Yvonne and you have landed on GingerChickRehab, where I love to take secondhand finds that I find out in the wild that are a little worse for wear, need a little bit of help, and give them new life here in the channel. And I share the process of what I do to the items, my vision, with you all to give them new life. So in today's video, I am doing some thrift store makeovers, some thrifted finds out in the wild. They are all kind of variants in what they are, but I could just see giving them new life and letting them live on. So here's something that you see probably pretty often in a thrift store, garage sale, about anywhere. You may even have some of these in your own home or tucked out in your inventory. Just some heavy duty wooden stools. And yeah, they're basically giving them away usually. But they're just so new. They're just new. So we're going to try to see if we can make them look old. So one of the first giveaways that they would be a new item is a tag. So not only the garage sale tags, but on the underneath of the chair, there is the manufacturer's tag. So we're going to go ahead and get those removed. And the other thing that makes this look like a new chair are these guides, these slides, these, I'm not really sure if they're floor protectors or not, because they're always hard plastic and they seem to scratch up flooring anyway. But I'm going to go ahead and pop these off. And now I need to remove that finish, that heavy duty top coat that's on here that makes it look so shiny. So I have 80 grit sandpaper on my orbital sander. The lower the number, the more product it will take off. So I'm just going to try to get as much as I can off with the power tool to save my hand. And then another thing that makes this look so new is all these sharp, squared off, straight as could be edges, especially along the bottom, along that sharp corner. So what I'm doing with that 80 grit sandpaper and my orbital sander is I am tipping it in. I'm trying to round it. I'm trying to make it look like it has been used year after year for decades. So I want to get those sharp edges sanded down, more of a rounded edge than a sharp point. I have to try to sand every area that I possibly can, because that top coat will prevent any color change from happening and it will not allow my color to soak in. And then just like I did on the bottom, I'm going to do the same thing on that top seat area. I'm going to take that sharp edge off using that sander. Now to add more age to this, I am going to beat this poor little stool up. We just have a Japanese saw and it is sharp. So what I'm doing is I'm just doing random cut marks, just random. Does not make any rhyme or reason, doesn't have to be any direction. Actually, it's better if you go in multiple directions, if you do multiple cuts here, one cut there, no rhyme or reason whatsoever. Just cuts all over the place. And then next up, I will start taking a hammer, not just the hammering part, but also the where you'd pry off the nails part, and that really gives it some I've been beat up and used and abused look. Now that I've done all that to this poor stool, I need to go back in and sand down, because I have really raised the grain of the wood. There's really sharp pieces of wood sticking out, so we need to smooth it back down. So what I do is I just do the smooth test. I have 220 sandpaper on my mouse sander right now, and I'm just going to keep sanding until it's smooth. So if it was worn with time, it would not be sharp, it would be smooth. So I need to make sure that everything has been smoothed down. And you can still see spots where there is still top coat where I just can't reach that electric sander. I will have to go back in with some sandpaper and sand that by hand. Okay, now we have two beat up, hopefully will look used and well loved stools. So now my next thing, I'm going to try to give these some of that age, you know, where wood would weather, it would gray, it would brown over time. So I have in my jar is a watered down antiquing wax mixture. So I have a pickle jar with water, just tap water, nothing special, a quarter cup of Waverly antiquing wax, and then a spoonful of Waverly ink chalk paint. So that's going to give it that dirt look, that I've been touched, I've been used kind of look. And you can really tell how it just soaks right into those areas that we hit with a hammer, we sawed with that saw, those cut marks. It actually just looks amazing like this. As amazing as they look, my plan was to paint these at the start. So I'm using Basil, Pantry door, and in the Pickle to make a unique old-timey green color. And so far, I paint this color up and it does not last in my retail booth. I have a couple pieces in my own house. Oh, do I love it so. So my main base is basil. So I'm going to add 2 scoops of basil and then 1 scoop of Pantry door, 1 scoop of in the Pickle. That seems to be working out for me. So it's supposed to be equal parts powder to equal parts water, but just use your judgment if you needed to add a little more here and there. So now I'm just going to make sure that I mix it up for 2 minutes. And the fun of it is you can really start to see it froth. It really will start to produce air bubbles, and you know that it's doing what it's supposed to do. And then you sit it off to the side and let it thicken 2 to 10 minutes. Just use your judgment. Now, since I did not seal like the Waverly chalk paint in, I don't know at the end results, will we still see the underlying color? Because this, I believe these are like a maple, which maple is so hard to really accept in like a watered down wax. But, you know, it just gives it a nice base and kind of takes some of that newer age off there that's so white that it's so light that it's almost white. So now, yep, I'm just going to proceed on painting. I'm going to start from my bottom area first. I love these little brushes because they don't hold a lot of paint. I don't have so much worry about drips and runs because the paint is filled up so much in the bristles. But yes, you know, paintbrushes are an investment, and this one is a little bit on the pricey side, but so I take really good care of it. I clean my brushes after every use. I do not let that paint sit on there and get hard, but in between coats I do put it in a Ziploc bag, make sure that it's airtight, that nothing's drying. If you're wondering how I clean my brushes, I just use Dawn dish soap to clean them. And then Color Fusion has a wonderful paint brush cleaner. And so after I get my paint taken off from there, then I go ahead and use a little dab of that cleaner, and that really conditions those brushes. Like I said, if I'm going to spend this much on a brush, I want to make sure that it stays healthy. Now I'm going to go ahead and use a heat gun and start drying my paint. I want to be able to get that second coat on before flipping it over to finish up. I wanted to dry that bottom part just enough that I could finger grab the wee bottom and flip it over and proceed on doing my next 2 coats. Of course, looking for any of those other areas that I may not have gotten with that first coat. Two coats later, everything is dry, and that is the one thing about milk paint. You can see the unevenness. It's not made to be perfect. It's made to be old-timey paint. It's that perfectly imperfect, and I'm going to help it along by giving it some more age. So I just have 220 sandpaper on my orbital sander, and I'm just going to start distressing this piece. I want to take a lot of the paint off so it looks like the paint has wore off over time, especially on the seat and where you would have put your feet area. I really want to make sure that that gets worn off. Now, if you don't feel like your 220 is taking enough off, if you really want to heavily distress it, you can go ahead and use 80 grit, but be careful, 80 grit takes a lot of product off. And then when I'm sanding it, just like I did after beating it up before painting, I am doing the feel test. I am making sure that everything feels nice and smooth. So the only way to tell is to feel it. Now I need to get rid of all that sanding dust, and I just take the air compressor and I just blow them off, making sure that I hit all those areas where that sand, the paint, whatever I took off is just laying in those corners. Now we're going to really give it some more age by adding some dirt. And I always call, for some reason, I call my black wax, brown wax, dirt. So I'm just going in with Jolie's black wax. I'm going to just brush it on. I really want to get that brush in there, and I want to make sure that that brush is getting in all those places that I distressed with that Japanese saw and that hammer, and it's really going to stick in there. And then once I get it all on there, I will wipe off with a rag, that's a piece of drop cloth, any of the excess. As those two were, this is probably not as common, but I got it in an auction haul when I was buying some boxes, and I think it's unique. It's a handmade piece made for a purpose. They were selling something, but I love the old concept of it. So let's see what we can do to give this new life. So first I got to figure out how to get it apart. And then I need to remove the chain. So I wasn't sure if it was something I could take out, if it was bent, if that was the purpose. I love the rusty crustiness of the chain. That will just stay as is. So looks like it's just nailed together. So I will just tap it with a hammer. And actually when I purchased this, I thought it was glass. It's not, it's plexiglass. So that actually makes the hammering this out a little bit safer. Sometimes you don't know what the difficulty level is going to be until you start working on a project. It really wasn't that hard, though this was, I'm sure, hung outside, so it's weathered, so it needs a lot of cleaning. Just sitting around the farm, it just plain and simply does. There's a little bit of dry rot wood, but that seemed to have all fallen off when I was hammering to get these apart. So now I'm just trying to use my vacuum and trying to get it cleaned up a little bit better. And then there was 2 of the nails that just didn't want to come out, so I'm not going to force them. I need to put this back together, so I'm just going to work around them. These are just one of those projects that really, other than vacuuming it off, I'm not adding any water to it. I'm not cleaning it off by any means. I know that seems weird. I know it's just so much different than a furniture flip. But yes, I'm going to be using flour sack to give it some old-time chippy white paint over that green and that aged wood. And then since I'm looking for extreme chippiness anyway, I'm just doing dry brush. That means I'm not looking for coverage. So just a wee bit of paint on my brush, a very soft hand, just running it over the piece. I am going to do 2 coats, but I want to make sure that I'm not really like trying to get it in all the holes and the ridges and all just the wear that the wood has created over time. It is not a smooth piece. I did not sand it to try to get it to be smooth. I just want to give it more age. After getting all 4 pieces painted, dry brushed, I'm just going to go ahead and dry them so I can proceed on applying the second coat. As I'm applying a little bit of that second coat, I'm going to hit it with the heat gun again. I'm really hoping, I think that this wood is going to absorb in the paint. I think it's going to chip where there's already previous paint, is my hope. So let's hope for the best, y'all. Oh, thanks for your prayers, because there is that cracking, that crazing, that chippiness is just happening. That all 4 of my pieces are painted. Oh, they cracked beautifully. I was hoping that they would. Now you'll just see some of that paint flying where it was chippiness. But that's the chippiness I'm looking for. That's that age that I am looking for. Yes, does it make a little bit of mess? I don't care. It's well worth that aged paint look. Now I'm going to be adding a little bit of dirt to these. Now, like I said, black, brown, wax, black and brown you can add together, and that really gives it that weathered, that aged look. So it really is going to tie this in. Plus, milk paint needs to be sealed in with something. So if you like as white as it is, you can just spray seal it, use some clear hemp oil, anything like that. I just like to add a little bit of dirt to my pieces. So wax on and then wipe off the excess. So now I felt like I was going to need to soak these pieces of plexiglass. So the plexiglass was put in when they painted it green. I've just got some hot water, some Dawn dish soap. I'm just scrub-a-dub-dumbing because there was a lot of elements still on here. And you can see actually where over time they were that hard plastic for sale signs, that actually the black melted onto the plastic. So as easy as the paint was to come off, just soaking it in some water with a scraping tool, and I was trying to be very gingerly with the scraping tool because it's plexiglass, so if I hit it wrong, I'm just going to be scraping up the plexiglass itself. But trying to get, I mean, it was really like that black really wanted to bond with this piece of plexiglass. So there might be some still left behind. It's that perfectly imperfect. It's supposed to look aged anyway, but I did want to get the green paint off. So recently in one of my local antique mall tours, which I try to go weekly to see if there's any goods, I found these old-timey signs, and there was actually 4 of them. And I thought, you know what? I have 4 of them. They would be perfect. They're already beautifully aged. They were like $3 a piece. I thought that was a good price. So I want to put them on. I don't want to use a lot of tape because I could tell that the 2 pieces of plexiglass over time are no longer tight together. So I want to go ahead and use minimal tape. I really didn't want to tape these by any means, but I do need something to hold them in place. And then if you cannot tell, I'm trying to use the squares on my Cricut mat to center them. So I'm just taking where those little chipped off areas, I think just a little dab of invisible tape will work. I'm actually, I didn't really want to use double stick tape either if I didn't have to. Oh, it was such a hard decision on these old-timey signs to tape them, but I think they'll be in. I think this is going to turn out beautiful, and I think they will stay inside here for a long time. Since so much of the other pieces edges are missing, I did end up just going like, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to use some double stick tape on the corners to keep it together. So now it's time to get it back together. So I know which part my top is because it has the hangers on it, and you can see that they're all recessed, it all sat in to keep that from falling out. So now, yep, just time to put it back together, and the edges, I did not fix the edges at all. I did not fix them. So what was wore off and dry rotted, I left that character there. Y'all, I do not have any idea why I am always finding swans. Always. Found this one in an antique booth out of town for $6. So $6 because it was broken. It's got some brokenness. It's missing an eye. It's scraped up. It's that perfectly imperfect, but it's a beautiful swan. So I think I can do something to make it look like that there's an eyeball in there. I don't have an exact match, but I'm going to be painting it up anyway, so I think there's something I can do about that. So my fix is I'm going to take some of the Starbond medium brown, not that it mattered really if I used color or clear, but I'm going to go ahead and start filling in that hole where the eyeball should have gone, the little BB that was there that's no longer there. So just a little dab. Let it sit in there. I'm going to hit it with the dryer. That's in 15 seconds. The accelerator will dry it. And I'll just keep beating it up until I get level. And then once I get level, I will try just to squeeze another little BB out to make it look like it's an eyeball. Will it flatten a little bit? Maybe. I don't think it'll be that perfectly round as the other side. But at least it won't be an indented hole. I can't tell you that this is actually broken. Like, was that the manufacturers, what they did? How, I mean, it's such a clean break. Maybe it did. I don't know. There is some chippy paint underneath it, which would make me think that it wasn't the manufacturer, that it had been, but I didn't really see any marks that meant that it was glued back on. I don't know. But I'm just taking some wood filler, some wood putty, and I'm just pushing it in with my fingers, making sure that it is getting into that crack and where the paint had chipped and any other, even like the bottom part where this is definitely the manufacturer's where they had attached the neck on. I'm going to go ahead and fill in there and look for any other. I like the distressing that's on there, but if the paint is chipped or it's down to the natural wood, and actually you can tell on that bottom part of the neck where they actually drilled in and put dowels to attach the neck on. So now that my wood putty is dry, I'm just going to go in with some 220 sandpaper, and I'm just going to smooth all those areas down where I put that wood filler. So now that I have it sanded smooth, I'm just going to blow off that sanding dust with the air compressor, and then I'm just going to wipe down this piece. I just washed it off with a Clorox wipe to get any powder residue off, but I need to dry it before sealing it in with some shellac. Now, because I put wood filler on it, that wood filler is really porous, and if you go to paint over that, that is the area you would see. So you want to fill that in with a couple coats of shellac will do. I know you all thought I was going to make another white swan, but no, I am not. Since I did not sell, I kept my large black one that I made over. I hope you all had seen that video. I was inspired when I saw this. I'm like, oh, I found another swan and I can make this one black. I was so super excited. So sweet pickings, lantern it is. Nice thing about milk paint is you can use that heat gun and you can keep on drying it so you can work around the entire piece. But I do spritz it with a little bit of water, just mist it, just to help even out any of the paint, any of the brush strokes, especially when I'm drying each area, a section of a piece as I was painting it. And then I'll just let it sit to the side and let it dry a little bit. And I could help it along again with the heat gun if I wanted to. And then I know it has wonderful coverage and you could stop. I mean, that black of lantern is so heavenly pigmented. It is amazing. But I'm going to go ahead, the paint is dry, but I'm spritzing it back. I'm misting it again because I'm going to add my second coat so that it doesn't it's not really grabby. It helps, the misting will help my paintbrush to slide on a little bit better, just make a nice smooth finish. To apply the second coat, if you notice when I was drying, it was already doing that chippy, that crackling that I wanted to. So I want this to have age too. So I want to have that crackling so that it's really key to get that second coat in. And my second coat, I'm just going to let it sit off to the side, let it crack where it's going to crack, not accelerate it with the heat gun. I thought it would be good to show you that it's not just the heat gun that makes it crack, so you can see it. But now where I put the wood filler, sometimes you can see where the wood filler is, so I don't want to take a ton of the paint off when I go to sand to distress, so I'm going to go ahead and just put one coat of the weather defense spray on there just to seal it in. And I had no idea how popular black swans were in Australia. Thank you all the viewers who commented that. I have never seen a black swan here in Michigan. I've seen pictures, but I've never seen a live one. So it's just neat to hear the areas that they are native to. They are gorgeous. Just, oh my gosh, breathtaking. I don't know if you all think that, but I definitely do. So I need to paint the beak. And now when the real live black swans, their beaks are very red. And I don't know if that's like certain times a year or if they're always that red. So I tone it down just a notch. So I'm just using some cherry pie, just a little dab of the milk paint to paint the beaks and then to give a little dot on that eyeball. And then I set it off to the side. I let that red paint dry, and now I'm just taking some 220 sandpaper and I'm distressing. I need a little bit more distressing to match where the chippiness of the paint that came off. Oh yes, I love that I'm able to do this in the workshop because I always have a lot of sweeping to do after my project. So now we're going to finish this one up by using some of the Jolie's black wax to just black on black. It's going to seal and protect. It's going to darken up those distressed areas so they're not sticking out so much. And I'm going to run it over that beak too, and it'll just tie it all together and really give it this piece some age. Now this is a bread box that I've had in my stash for a while, and I'm not sure if I picked it up at a Goodwill. I love the glass bread in this. Absolutely love it. And it's in great condition, other than there is a little bit of wear, some kind of a residue on the top of it. So I told myself I was going to stick this off to the side because quite a few videos ago, I did some bread boxes, and because there's that few percent that does not like you to paint pieces, I left them natural. And I said, okay, I'll put them in my booth natural. I just put some wording on them just for the bread to give them a little bit of updating, and there they sat. Collected dust. I had to dust them, which for me is one of the things I do not like to do, is to dust things in my retail booth. I even lowered the price on them, and there they sat. So y'all who do not like wood to be painted, go ahead and click off. It is fine. We all cannot have the same vision for an item. But what good is it for me to clean up an item that was donated secondhand and nobody wants to buy it, even at a discount? All that work you put into something, even cleaning it up, is still work. And then it just sits. So this bread box is going to be getting a paint job today. So I'm doing my prep sanding right now. Yes, if you're wondering, the wood ones were the only ones left. Anyone that I painted had sold already. Some of them sell faster than others, but they are all sold. The only ones left are my wood ones. So this one will be going in after it's painted, and the wood one will be coming back home to get painted. So I'm just going to get that knob removed so I can sand underneath that area. Now this piece of glass on the inside does have some rubber seals that You would think that you could remove the glass, but no, the glass must be glued in somehow. So I'm not going to force it. I'm just going to take my time to tape off that beautiful stained glass. It's not really stained glass, but it gives you the idea that it's a stained glass piece. I am not sure what that residue was. It did not wash off. I had to sand it off. I really don't know. But now I'm just getting the piece cleaned up, and I'm actually just got a Clorox wipe, which is perfectly fine, and I'm just wiping down the piece. Then I taped the entire inside like I just want to paint where the wood is. I'm not going to worry about the cork board or that hardy board. So I just took the time to tape all that off too. And did I mention that this green sells really well? So I mixed up enough knowing that I was going to be painting this bread box also. I had painted a metal bread box not too long ago, and that same day it sold. And sometimes it's just a fluke, you just never know. But I'm like, heck yeah, if this is the color that is selling right now, I hope you all aren't getting tired of seeing it, because it's that old-timey green color mixture that I don't know. I think it's like almost like a neutral that you can add into your decor. I know there is a lot of paints out there, especially chalk paints, that you can dry and keep on working on, but that's one of the reasons I love the milk paint. I love the finish that it gives, but I love that I can dry in between coats and just keep on working on the same project where I don't have to keep sitting off to the side waiting for time to go by as it dries. On my first coat, it was cracking and crazing, which was helped along, of course, by the dryer, the heat gun. So I just set it off to the side and let it dry naturally, and look at the chippiness that it did. So I'm going to go ahead and seal that in so I'm not completely taking all the chippiness off and going back down. I want it to look aged. I want it to look distressed. I know it's a personal taste. It's not for everyone. The chippiness, the cracking, the crazing, and that's okay. I'll still do plenty of pieces that are not like this, but it's hard when this is what's selling really well right now. Because I love to paint things over for y'all, but I can't have a whole load of inventory that is just sitting. Now that my clear coat of weather defense is dry, I'm going in and I'm distressing it even more. We're going to get those sharp edges, just 220 sandpaper on my orbital sander, and where that really chippiness is, it's going to chip right off, but that's the look I'm going for. So now there's always going to be those areas that you just can't get to with that electric sander, but you do need to go back in and hand sand them, because when you go to use your finish coat on them, they will take that finish coat differently. And there's just something about that black wax on this milk paint that is that topping. Oh my gosh, it just brings that paint to life. Oh, that crazy and that crackling. Oh, my heart is always so happy when I get to this step. you so much for watching today's video. Give me a comment down below which of the items I made over today were your favorites, and have I given you inspiration to go out and search in the wild and looking for items that might be a little worse for wear, might just need a little bit of fixing, some new paint, and give them new life. So thanks again for watching today's video, guys, and as always, if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you're new and you like this kind of content, smash that like button along with the notification bell so you know when we've uploaded a new video, and we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye!